I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street.
Hey guys, it's Steve Owens here. I want to tell you a little story. My wife is in Evanston, Wyoming on temporary assignment. Since she's away from her cuddly teddy bear, myself, getting to sleep at night has been a little difficult. But luckily she found a product at a local store made by Inhale Health called electronic melatonin. Inhale Health presents a disposable vape pen that introduces melatonin directly into your bloodstream. Inhalation allows melatonin to be absorbed instantaneously, providing faster effects than possible through tablets or beverages. With just a few puffs each night before bed, a good night's sleep is just a breath away. My wife actually used this product and it did work. She was able to get restful night's sleep finally after so long. So when she was telling me about it, I told her to bring me one the next time she came home. I used it and I also loved it. It's not easy to get to sleep when your wife is 3,000 miles away. Each vape pen comes preloaded with 400 breaths, which is roughly a 1-month supply, and is already charged. You don't need to refill it. You don't need to recharge it. When you're done, simply throw it in the recycle bin and order another one. My wife and I love this product so much that I actually reached out to the company and asked them to sponsor my show. And they agreed. So here's what they're going to do. Every one of my listeners who goes to inhalehealth.com and orders any of their 7 different vape pen products is going to get a 10% discount plus free shipping when you put in the promo code FSP as in Fascination Street Podcast. So there it is, guys. That's inhalehealth.com, 10% off any of their 7 products, free shipping. Promo code FSP. So give it a shot. You'll be glad you did. And hey guys, you're welcome. Hi everybody. This is Steve Owens from Fascination Street Podcast. I really appreciate your listening to the show. I'm having a lot of fun getting to talk to some really fascinating people. And I want to continue doing this, but I need your help. I need you to subscribe and tell people about the show. But the biggest thing you can do to help me is to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you listen through. As a special thank you, anyone who rates and or reviews the show, send me a screenshot as proof and I will mail you a set of 3 pair of silk cufflinks courtesy of my friends at Menlo House. You can send it via Twitter to @FascinationSTPD, via Instagram to FascinationStreetPod, or email me at fascinationstreetpod@gmail.com. I really appreciate all of you for listening and for helping. Thank you so much. Now let's get to this week's guest. Welcome back, guys. This episode is with Neil Sandilands. Most recently, you've seen Neil as the Thinker, the supervillain, on Season 4 of the CW's The Flash. In this episode, we talk about his time on the TV show Hap and Leonard, working with the great Eric Roberts, growing up and acting in South Africa, his career change to come to the U.S., and the morality of active engagement versus technology. In this episode, he does let us play a beautiful song he did a few years ago that is sung entirely in his native language of Afrikaans. It's called BREINSKADE. Enjoy, guys. This is my interview with CW's The Flash's The Thinker, Neil Sandilands.
Yeah, talk to me, yeah.
Neil Sandilands, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me on Fascination Street. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Did you get the name Fascination Street from the Cure song?
Yes, I did.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Cure.
Good. Me too. It was very, I grew up, I guess I blossomed in the late 80s, early 90s, and so that was right in my wheelhouse, and I love them. They're awesome.
Yeah, me too. I think we come from a similar ilk, yeah.
Yes, I agree. Well, for everybody who doesn't know, Neil Sandilands is an actor who originally is from South Africa and was acting there and then decided to come to the United States and basically start over. Is that right?
Well, start over. I mean, I'm not sure about the start over part. It's just a continuation of a body of work, You're a medical professional I guess you start something and you proceed, and hopefully someday down the line you get to a level of mastery. So I'm still in the process of getting to, a level of mastery.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was making the transition from South African film and television to American film and television. I heard a couple of interviews with you where you talked about, I wouldn't say really the struggle, but took a little time maybe to get an agent and to kind of get your foot in the door over here. What made you decide to come over here and do it here?
That's so funny, because I thought when you said the struggle, I thought you were referring to South Africa and the struggle, what is commonly referred to as the struggle and the apartheid struggle. I misunderstood that for a second. No, yeah, I thought it was a political question.
No,
which I'm happy to talk about as well.
I really try to stay away from politics on this show because everybody's all over the place and it's such a hot button issue right now. Everybody's so divided. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I'm a glass half full kind of guy.
Oh, I really like that. It seems that everywhere I run into glass half empty people on both sides, and it's really demoralizing. So that's kind of why I try to stay out of it.
Yeah. Let's not go there. Okay, so to answer your question about the struggle, it is a struggle. Of course it is. There's so many things that you have to take into consideration. Immigrating, and then you go through the bureaucracy of all that. You get a green card. You have to become part of the union. You got to get representation, agency. And then you got to literally just start walking the streets, and you got to get into casting offices and have people, I guess, see you multiple times so that they get an understanding of your range of work and your presentation. And LA is just that place. I don't think it's an easy thing to do necessarily, but then also it's not neuroscience. We're not saving lives,
Well, that's true, but it's not
well,
easy.
But we are inspiring people, and that's narrative and narrative structure, and I love that because stories they can really change people's lives. That I do believe, yes.
Well, good. I'm glad you said that because I was going to say that, a lot of people might be, in sort of a different spot emotionally or mentally or whatever, and then see or hear a piece of art or some entertainment, and even if it's just for one day, it might make them decide not to do something that they might regret. So I think that art is very powerful.
I think we need fable. We do need fable, mystery, something like Red Riding Hood, or I don't know. I used to love Hans Christian Andersen. That's the origin of it. It's fable and it's folklore and it's telling the tale and getting to speak to each other in certain ways. And I think that's my job more so than I guess purely looking at it from an entertainment perspective. There is that quote, and I'm sure you got it from one of the interviews that I did recently, where I said, in the words of George Friedrich Handel, I should be sorry, O Lord, if I only succeeded in entertaining them. My wish was to make them better. And I think that's a conversation to be had.
Nice. So when did you decide to become an actor, and is that why?
Well, for me, I think acting or posturing, manipulation, all of those things, and maybe a certain degree of talent to do that thing, started at a very young age. I never studied any of that. It purely came about, I think, as some sort of a defense mechanism. If you think about bullies, and bullying is a really big topic at the moment. Yeah, we even had our first lady commenting on that. My device was just to go like, okay, if I behave in a certain way, then I can protect myself. But it's about cues and codes and I guess basic mathematics at the end of the day.
How is it basically mathematics?
Anything has got structure, right? You got a
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the stuff that you did in South Africa.
Yes.
Now, besides acting, you also direct, produce, you do post-production, cinematography. Did you do all of that in South Africa as well?
Yeah, and I think that was born out of necessity, because you want to create. I'm a little bit reticent about going like, like all of the networks at this point, it's just about content and creating content. I don't think I was ever necessarily in that fold. I just wanted to tell stories, right? And I thought that you could do that as a global communicator, perhaps, and then you need to have form and technique in order to be able to do that. So you need to learn all the skills. And for me, it was a necessity to go like, okay, how do you edit? How do you produce good sound? How do you color something so that it becomes a beautiful picture? I still think of the feature film as the pinnacle of aesthetic pursuit.
Well said.
Because it takes into consideration so many things. And you've got cultural artifact, you've got rhythm, you've got composition, color, sound, all of those things, and it comes together in a feature film. So it's almost like it's like architecture in a sense.
Absolutely. So we'll talk more about this later, but you did some work on the CW television series The Flash, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe either 1 or 2 episodes were directed by Kevin Smith. He did a lot of those same things that you were talking about just now with the starting to make a film, and you kind of did things out of necessity. So when you guys were on set, did y'all happen to talk about any of that kind of stuff that y'all have in common, or was it all just about getting the shots and getting the story down?
No, I'm a huge fan of Kevin, and I was very sorry to learn about his cardiac arrest. But I went over on that particular day. I didn't work on that episode. I wasn't in that particular episode that he directed, but I did want to meet him, and I was sort of all coy about it. Would you mind meeting me and just say hello, because I am a fan.
And I'm assuming, as much as I know about him, I'm sure he was really open to that, and it was not a regret for you to meet him.
No,
Good.
Of course not. No,
Good.
I just wanted to be respectful about it. I just wanted to follow protocol and kind of go like, is it cool? If I go there and say hello, and he was just, he's a blast. He's a very flamboyant, eccentric. He comes with his costume or his uniform, as it were, and he was just gracious and pleasant. Yeah, it was just a really cool experience to meet him. Even I get starstruck with stuff like that. So I asked him, would you mind taking a picture? And he was very agreeable on that.
Oh, cool. Like I said, we'll get back to The Flash in a little bit, but right now, will you tell me about this documentary? I believe you made a documentary about Afrikaans movies.
I did. I made a 21-part series. Not I, me and a fellow colleague, Albert Maritz, and I hope he hears this somewhere along the line. And it was just a way I was thinking about how we preserve things, and reflecting back upon history. So I was curious about how the South African broadcasting, the entire operation came about. And I went back as far as the early theater traveling company and how they started. It was just a thought that was introduced to me by Albert, and went in there and followed it all the way through to, at that point in time, I think when we did the broadcast, it was more or less the time of the writer's strike and the advent of reality TV and where we went with that, And then, obviously, as a sort of a backlash or a knee-jerk reaction to reality TV, we now have better product, a more considered, aesthetic, stylized product happening in series that people can consume.
Cool.
Yeah, but that was my interest. I wanted to understand more or less how these things fit together, and I told it through the narratives of 21 different people, actors primarily in South Africa. And some of these individuals they were old at the time when I was doing it. And some of them perished. I don't know how better to put it. They passed whilst we were doing the series.
Wow.
I guess it had a really emotive quality to it as well.
Well, you were talking about how some of the actors passed during the making of this. Did that make it feel more important to you?
Well, certainly. I think legacy is something, but it comes back down to mathematics as well. That's how we learn from each other, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tolstoy said it. He always spoke about context. You must understand what came before you, and you must understand what comes after you. And the moment you've got that, then your life makes sense. We got to take the baton. That's it. So yeah, I'm sort of into those kind of things and preservation of cultural artifact. Yeah, certainly I am.
Well, that sounds beautiful. So, back to South Africa, how many languages do you personally speak fluently?
My first language is Afrikaans, obviously. My second language is English, and then I speak a little bit of Pidgin, Xhosa, and Zulu. I can speak Sotho. Well, not fully, but sure. I can basically help myself. I can go like, hey, what's your name? Where do you come from? Thank you very much, and please. I can do those kind of things.
Wow, that's really cool. So when
but I mean, you get people who I'm always flabbergasted when I encounter individuals that they can speak 7 languages.
Right.
I heard, and I don't know if this is an empirical fact, but apparently if you do like 3 languages, then you can speak more. But I'm stuck at 2. To answer your question, I'm fluent in writing, reading, and communicating in 2 languages.
Gotcha.
I lament the fact that I don't know other languages. I would love to know Spanish and French and Russian and Cantonese. The list goes on.
Well, there's still time.
Thank you, my friend.
So when my children were little, one of our neighbors, they had children who were about the same age as our children, and their children, it was a second marriage, and so they were children from the first marriage, and so the mother and the children were from South Africa, from Cape Town, and the little boy and the little girl were best friends with our little boy and little girl for about a decade until we moved away, and everybody went off to college or whatever. So we would always have these 2 little South African kids in our house, and they would always, they would speak Afrikaans sometimes, to each other, or when we would ask them, about questions, here in San Antonio, there's not a whole lot of people that speak Afrikaans. And so we would always ask them questions about, how do you say this? How do you say that? And it's a very interesting sounding language.
Yes, because it's infused by so many things. The ANC, the African National Congress, would probably argue otherwise. But the beauty of the language is that it is a coming together. It's one of the most modern languages in the first place, but it is the coming together of Anglo influence, Franco influence, Malaysian influence, and an African influence. It's all there in one language. It's like a melting pot. They used to have it on the mines. To a lesser extent, there was a language called Fanagalo, but it was, I guess, perceived as more like an instructional language or a way of communicating with people. Like, get out the gold, or don't do that. That's been well, they stopped doing that. And for me, it's a little bit unfortunate because I'm always interested and curious about how do we find ways to communicate with people. Going back to, I'm an actor. So I kind of started it as a hobby, I guess, and see how far it took me. And I've just been particularly fortunate and lucky, I suppose, to be able to do that.
I would agree. It's not easy, and obviously you have an aptitude for it. The things that I have seen you in, you are outstanding. Like you steal the scene in just about every scene you're in. So you clearly have an aptitude for it. So good job on you, sir.
That's mighty kind of you to say. Thank you.
You're welcome. So you were on the Americans TV show?
Yes, I think that was my first series regular in Northern America.
And so for some of my listeners, what is the difference between a series regular and just, a guest star spot or just, being on the show?
No, I'm sorry. I got it wrong. No. That was it wasn't series regular. That was a recurring guest. So, okay, good question. Because I did 2 episodes. So the moment I do one or more, you become recurring guest.
Okay.
So people basically invite you to come and play with them, and you do it for 1 episode, and then 2 episodes or more, then you become a recurring guest. Series regular, in my estimation, or at least my read of it, are people who, they're permanent fixtures of the project that you're doing.
Okay.
But we also have different ways of understanding that because, in South Africa, it's perhaps called something else.
Right. And then within that, there's what is it, above the line or below the line, or is that completely different?
Are you talking above the line participation in your end product? That's a great question because I think usually your exec producers, your producers, your directors, they are considered above the line. Just because there's intellectual property going into that, and that needs to be remunerated and counted, I guess, reflected upon. That's in some instances, I'm not sure about this, but I can't remember his name now. But the cinematographer for the Coen brothers, Deacon, there you go, Oscar recipient. Yeah. So in those instances, I think because he brings such a value with what he is doing from cinematic perspective, he is considered, I would imagine that he is considered an above-the-line participant.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I can't see it otherwise. If he's not, then we have to change the system. we have to, because he needs to be, not praised, but, I don't know.
Acknowledged
For the value that he brings to the table, yes.
Right. All right, well, tell me about when you met John Boy from the Waltons.
Oh, it was lovely. Yeah, I mean, it was a very brief interaction, but we were sitting in a makeup trailer, and he was just talking about a stage play that he was in at that point in time, and I just wanted to let him know that I grew up watching him, It became part of the fabric in our house. I mean, it was the Waltons. And South Africa got television very late, 1976, and the Waltons was one of the first programs that we ever had opportunity to see. I mean, I remember walking home and just looking at the test pattern for, we knew that it was going to happen at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and we were sitting there ready, waiting. The Waltons was one of the first programs we ever saw. And I just wanted to share that with him. I just wanted him to know what an impression he made upon me. And, well, the entire production,
And what were you working on with him?
That was the Americans.
Oh, that was the Americans? Okay. So what he was talking about, kids, is that now there's, 1,000 TV channels that run 24 hours a day. Well, it didn't used to be like that. There was only so much content. And so there was nothing on the channel until, like he said, 5 o'clock when the Waltons would come on. Before that, there was just nothing on until that happened. So that's what he was talking about. That's back in the olden days.
Oh, you asked him a thinker question. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
No, it's fine. I just wanted everybody, because you had talked about there was just the pattern on the TV until the Waltons, and so I wanted everybody to know what that meant. Because, a lot of the people who listen to podcasts are millennials, and they've only ever known the internet age. So I wanted to explain that a little bit is all.
I get a little bit irritated with all the technology that we have to deal with, but these things are not new occurrences. And I don't think you can have a morality judgment over it. I mean, you can't say, in my ideal world, I would probably say, like, I don't know, let's just balance it out. You know, you got to do like 50% of interaction and active engagement with the people around you. And then certainly part of our evolution is our technology. But we need to also understand that balance. And it's a very delicate, intricate balance. I mean, air conditioning is a marvelous thing. Of course it is.
Yes.
You know, but then we also have to think about the fact that, you know, it's usually appropriated on the outsides of walls, and it also emits its own energy and its heat. So, you know, we need to find that balancing act. I'm very old school when it comes to that. I enjoy people around a table and exchanging ideas and see how they react to that. That's my thing. I realize that not everyone is like that. You know, people who want to sit and play video games for, I don't know, 20 hours at a time. My hat's off to them. I guess it's just not my way.
I'm with you, my friend. I do not understand it. Good on those who do, but I can't. I don't even have video games.
There's something pretty good about having a meal.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah.
You know, and paying attention to the aesthetic of that as well. You know, and not shoving a hamburger. Not that I do love hamburgers. You know, but you can get into more pleasant dishes. You know, which is interesting and challenging for the palate. And you kind of go, oh, okay, that's interesting. I've never had that. Otherwise, you just get into a position of going like, okay, I'm regurgitating the same things. You know, then you get into staple. And we all know what the potato famine was, you know. So, yeah.
Well, I agree. My wife and I and our kids, we had dinner every night together around the table. No matter what was going on, we always had dinner together. And I think that's one of the reasons that we have such a great relationship with our kids now, because even though they're in their mid-20s, they still enjoy hanging out with us, and we still enjoy hanging out with them. And I think that had a lot to do with it. You know, we didn't just plant them in front of a TV and do our own thing or whatever.
I get a little bit irritated about that. If you think about Jerry Springer, for example, if I look at it, I see people who are they're just shouting over each other the whole time. It's almost like the louder my voice is, you know, the more I get heard. And I think there's a subtlety in how you can communicate, and I guess just like an elegance about how you can communicate with each other. And that's not happening. I find it very disruptive when you're having a meal and you're engaging with people and somebody goes like, yeah, sorry, I got to take a call. So I try and structure those things.
Well, that makes sense. I think it creates a more cohesive bond between whoever you're having that meal with or whoever you're talking to.
Of course. Charity starts at home, you know. You got to take care of the people around you.
And it's a little on the disrespectful side because, you know, you're literally saying to whoever's right in front of you that whoever's on the phone is more important. And that's just a little bit demeaning, I think.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with not taking a call or going like, give me 10 minutes or however long, I'm going to call you back. You know, we've got the ability to do that. Or we can simply just remove the device. Like, I'm absolutely going to lose this argument because I don't see it going in my favor. No, I certainly don't. I think there's going to be an evolution. You got, like, kids are scanning these days. They're scanning vertically, horizontally, at the same time. I didn't grow up doing that. I started a book from front to back. I'm still somebody who can write in cursive, and that's taking out of school syllabuses.
Yeah.
We're not doing that, you know. So I'm not suggesting that my way is better at all, but I do think there is value in what your father taught you.
I agree. I think they're taking spelling out of classes because now everybody has spell check. So as long as they have a rough idea of how to sound things out, I think spelling is pretty much gone as a subject.
That's also a good question. I wonder about that. I never want to get into a position of absolutism about that. Like, this is the only way that something is spelt, you know, and I'm going to impress my authoritarian view onto that. You know, that's the only way, and that's into perpetuity. And
Right.
oh my God, I've seen contracts that read that into perpetuity, like a tail end to that. I just laugh at that. Best I can do.
That's funny.
You know, but I don't think that there's a problem with people rearranging discourse, and I think that will happen naturally. I don't need to predicate it. It will happen as part of evolution. And then, okay, so your next question is probably going to be, what do I think about evolution theory?
Yes.
And I'm probably going to piss off a lot of people about that.
Let's hear it. Okay, let's not. Tell me about Hap and Leonard.
It's one of the most pleasurable experiences for me on being on a set, certainly. We were just such a tight bond. We had a great time. It was the first time that I was down in New Orleans. And what I enjoyed about it so much is the regional food. It wasn't generic. It was very specific and evolutionary procedure. To answer your question, James Purefoy was the lead on that. And I marveled at how good he was as a number one on the call sheet, you know. He just had such grace about him.
Did you have to audition to get that role, or how did that come to you?
I believe that was a self-tape, yes. I think so. Yes, it was. And then Jim Nicol, the director, obviously chose me, and I'm so thankful for that.
I bring it up because now it's on Netflix, and I think everybody should go check it out. I think there's a couple of seasons on there, and I'm only halfway through it, but it's really, really awesome. Everybody should check that out on Netflix.
I think so, too. It's a beautiful, poetic, it's got a different pacing. It reminds me, I always, when I think about it, it's almost like Magnum P.I. meets the A-Team kind of vibe. But then it also has these undertones of like two detectives. It's there, you know. The landscape certainly brings something to the story.
I would absolutely agree that the
the A-Team, can you remember that?
oh man, I never missed an episode. I loved it. You filmed, I guess, scenes for a movie called Frank and Ava. Is that still on the festival circuit?
As far as I know, it is on the festival circuit. It was just upon invitation, and it was great for me to work on that because I had the opportunity to work with Eric Roberts.
Oh, cool.
And it was interesting to see how he approaches, his method or his talent and how he brings it to the table. I was looking at the scenes in that, and he's such a consummate professional.
Well, he's been
and
doing
when
it.
you see the material, you see the moment, you see the scene. He just reads so particularly well. I'm a fan.
Oh, me too. I think he's been in the business for over 30 years or something. He really is a professional. He's done a lot of work.
Yeah, there is that sort of sub-language that goes on about, I don't know what A-grade films and B-grade films these days are anymore. I think there is a good argument for being exemplary, of course, but I don't know where that boundary lies anymore, because we're just consuming stuff. I mean, most people are just sharing stuff like links on YouTube, and that's not a bad thing, because it also gives a sort of a democratic value to it, because I think the most watched YouTube links are of cats.
Yep.
Yeah, cute cats.
Yep.
There we go. So we got to incorporate that into our discourse, into our shared discourse. But I think that there is something to be said for something that is really refined, distilled, and presented. The presentation of it becomes a thing. It's one thing to do your homework, but it's a second thing to do it really well.
Correct. I think that the way I break down actors, as far as A, B, or C or whatever, I consider two categories. One is working actor, and the other one is non-working actor. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm just excited.
You are a marvel. I have to tell you, you are just really presenting me with such good questions, and I'm appreciative of that.
Thank you. Oh, speaking of which, you're going to be filming, or maybe you already are filming, a movie in Austin sometime soon. Is that right?
I already wrapped that. But
Oh,
to
wow.
answer your question,
Well, that was fast.
this is how I think about it. Being an actor, it's one thing. We do these things, and I guess the ego and the self-test and everything is involved in that. But I'm trying to think about it like, how can I be sustainable? So if it didn't turn out, if there's nothing next that comes to me, that's also fine, because then I have to apply myself in a different way. And then I don't know what that would be. It could be writing, it could be directing, it could be producing. But I think you need to have that multitasking thing going on, so that, we evolutionary creatures. You don't put all your eggs into one basket, do you?
Well, you're not supposed to.
Well, it's an old conventional wisdom, and it still rings true.
Indeed. Can you talk about the movie that you filmed in Austin? And the reason I'm asking is because I'm located about 45 minutes from Austin, so that intrigues me a little bit. Can you talk anything about that movie that you just did? You just wrapped?
Yeah, it was a good movie. I think so. I was fundamentally interested in the backdrop of it, because it's all about the Mexican border and what's going on there, and human trafficking and drug trafficking. But the movie is not that. It's just the backdrop of it. It reminded me of a novel that I read by Josie Kaczynski called The Painted Bird. And it was kind of like a coming-of-age story, and a kid, well, in this case, it's not a kid, but it's two young lovers. Eventually, they could have an interest. Yeah, okay, that like, I don't want to give the plot line away, but it kind of reminded me of that. In this film, I play the complete opposite, like a 180-degree U-turn from what I played as the thinker. I play a simpleton, but he doesn't live without intelligence. Obviously, he does have intelligence. And that was that dynamic. I'm particularly proud of it in a certain way, because I only say one line in the entire film.
Really?
Yeah, but he's there.
Right.
He witnesses things. He sees the chaos that is happening around him. He's immersed in the landscape of it and the discernible temperature of it. So you see him a lot, but he only has one line, or the character, at least, only has one line.
That's really funny. That's another thing that you and Kevin Smith have in common, because he plays Silent Bob, where he'll go through the whole movie and he only has one. He only has one or two lines.
Yeah, no, for sure. Kevin is just like a naturally funny and gifted and talented and gregarious guy. I don't think I am.
You come across as gregarious and fun on the screen, so either you're working really hard to give that impression, or you're wrong that you're not naturally like that. Hey, so let's talk about The Flash.
We can certainly talk about that.
So when you got the call, or I guess I'm assuming that you auditioned for that role?
Yes, I did. And in fact, there was a second time that I auditioned for that particular casting office, Mr. Rappaport. I saw Todd Halbing in the audition process. I did the first take, and then he went like, I think I would assume that he liked it a lot. And then I went like, no, hang on. I wasn't quite pleased with that. I can do it better. And that was a little bit of a calculated move, because I often wonder if I screwed it up, I don't think I would have gotten the part, Right. But I did it a second time, and I think you could see, okay, that's where the nuance lies of it. You can actually rework. It's an organic thing when you start making film. You can get a certain take, but it's all about the rhythm, the dynamic, and all of that. And you got to deliver that on the day. And you know when something rings true. You just know that. All of us know that. We have that in ourselves. We know when something rings true. And then I got offered the part, and I was obviously over the moon.
Obviously. Did you do anything to prepare for that role? Because that was a pretty long role. I mean, for those who don't know, Neil is the big bad guy for the entire most recent season of The Flash. He's the big bad guy. that's not just a 1 or 2 episode thing. I mean, that arc lasted what? I don't know exactly how many episodes you were in.
23, yeah.
Yeah, 23.
23, yeah. And it's something to consider, and I think I can say this without offending anyone. I'm a naturalized American citizen. I live here, and I'm particularly proud about that. But as an actor coming in, just because you're a little bit exotic and whatnot, you don't necessarily get to play the boy next door. You usually cast as the evil dude, yeah. So I've been doing that primarily, and that was my way in. I would imagine. What do you think about that statement? Because you're an American. I mean, you are born. I would imagine you are a born American.
I am. I was born here. Obviously, I don't know what it's like to not be born here like you do, or to try to assimilate.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know. It's, you know, there's something in the idiom that's wrong, where you villainize anything that's foreign. There's something wrong in that idiom, and I think it needs some reflection and self-critique.
Well, I think you're 100% right. We do have a tendency to do
But
that.
I'm also not in the game of vilifying American, because there's many a great thing about being an American and why I wanted to come here in the first place. There's a lot of pull factors. I mean, just the First Amendment and understanding what that is about, for me, is it's a marvel.
Well, we do have a tendency to sort of, vilify on screen people that aren't from here.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually the Germans or the Russians. They're the bad guy, Kind of, no, it's not true. There are, I know so many great Croatians and Cantonese. No, I don't know. That's an absolute lie. I don't know any Cantonese people by name, certainly, but I know a lot of people. Their nationality hardly comes into play when I think about the humanity.
Right. Like, we even did it with Alan Rickman. When he first came over, he was playing, like, the bad guy.
In Die Hard. You're talking about Die Hard, yeah.
Yeah. And he's one of the most relatable and beloved villains in movie history. But, yeah, like you said, we do have a tendency to do that. I'm not really sure why we do it. Probably because it works. I guess probably deep down we're just a bunch of dicks.
Well, there you go. You exercise that, and I'm in the fold with you. But I do think there's something to be said for this little anecdote that I'll throw out there for your absorption. South Africa was, I do think that it's the first documented war, the Anglo-Boer War. We had a film, and it was supposed to be the Hollywood of the world. And then two things happened, the First World War and the Second World War. And during that time, Hollywood adopted optic sound on film strip. And also, we got to know how to expose film with color. And by that time, Hollywood was on its way, right? And then South Africa, we only got onto the world stage a lot later. 1976, like I say. But we did have film in that period. The unfortunate thing is that there's very few films that I can name that I think really hits the mark, in terms of something that communicates universally. Their best film to this date, in my opinion, is The Gods Must Be Crazy. Have you ever seen that film?
Oh my God.
It was made by Jamie Ace.
I love that movie so much.
It's super funny, but it's a particular bedside manner.
That movie is hilarious.
Yeah. It made such an impression on me. But it was also, in the same sense, it was inspirational for me.
How so?
Well, I mean, it's quest, right? And I think what Jamie Ace did with the movie, he was working out in South Africa at that point in time. And he started doing weird things with timing of stuff. This is before we employed slow motion, fast motion. He would cut out frames, He was so specific about how he presented his comedy, because editing is certainly a skill. And he did all of that. Yeah, end statement.
I love that. End statement. Okay, so in the movie Lethal Weapon 2, the South Africans were the bad guys. How did that make you feel?
Oh, yes, that obvious word is used in there, yeah. And you have to deal with those things. Whether it was a good movie or a bad movie, I don't know. I'm not going to make the moral judgment of it. But the fact that it was employed certainly gives us something to think about. And, you know, being South African and being a white Afrikaans, male South African, there's a lot that I need to think of in terms of my history. Well, what I would call my collective history. So it gives food for thought, you know?
I agree. As a white male in America who was basically raised in the southern states, I also have a lot that I need to think about in terms of that. So right there with you, buddy.
Yes, but I still think about things in evolutionary terms. You know, we were all put on this place together, and it starts somewhere, it goes somewhere, and we need to figure out where we want to go communally.
You're not wrong, and we need to figure out how to get there together.
I often think about the last statement of the Blue Planet, and Sir David Attenborough makes this statement, or this is at least how I understand it. We need to kind of collectively figure out how we share our resources. And one of the things is we as humans, we need to actively look at how we, I'm not saying population control, but just how we think about that. Because, you know, it's just unsustainable to have 13 puppies and not be able to take care of them. So, yeah, that's part of my thinking there.
Gotcha.
And Sir David Attenborough saw the same.
Well, then you're in good company.
I don't know about that.
Okay, well, how about this? I think I saw somewhere that you also have a musical side to you. Do you perform music?
Yeah, music is everything. Music is everything. Van Gogh said it. I would love to live more musically. I think Dylan also said it. I'm very much a song and dance man.
I heard a song that you sang, and while I did not understand a single word of it, the tone and the way you sang it was just beautiful and touching. I think it's called BREINSKADE.
You so did your homework. Wow. Yes, it's called BREINSKADE.
Okay, and what is it about? Since I don't know what it's about.
Okay, this is where I'll start. The title of the song is Brain Damage, if you translate it. I used pictures of my family, my gogo, my oma, you know, just images about that. Like, this is a representation of my life. And I guess how you think about that. But in essence, the song is more about, there's a line at the end of it, like, "Ek kan jou nie meer onthou nie," which is a bit of a double entendre. You go, I cannot remember you more, or it's meaning the same as, like, I'd like to forget you. So there's the tension. I am so completely taken, and then at the same time, I do realize that I got to get on with it. I got to do my own thing, right? So that's sort of the tension of song, and there always needs to be a tension to anything. A good story, there always needs to be that kind of tension.
Well, it's a beautiful song, and I was wondering if I could have your permission to play it.
Thank you for saying that.
Can I play it on this episode?
I'd be so honored. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Will you say it one more time so I don't mess up the title? Here it goes, guys. This is
BREINSKADE
by Neil Sandilands.
Vat my hand, skryf vir my iets wat my sal stop. Vat my oog en neem vir my 'n foto van ek en jy, wat my hart weer sal laat klop. Maar ek kan jou nie meer onthou nie, ek kan jou nie meer onthou nie. Jou parfum is op die kussen, maar ek kan jou nie meer onthou nie. Vat my siel, ry met my karoopad sonder rente. Vat my hart en ruil vir my daai was langs die pad. Reënby en die lente, maar ek kan jou nie meer onthou nie, ek kan jou nie meer onthou nie. Jou lipste vee is op die sigaret, maar ek kan jou nie meer onthou nie. En het maakie, sakulati, ek gee nie regtig om nie. En het maakie, saai wijn, of voel jy aan welkom nie. As jy 'n datum, wat het 'n plek nie. Ek is lankie, met jou gek nie. En die tafel is nie gedek nie. Oh, ek is nie meer ek nie. Ek sê weer, wou vergeet, en ek wil alles van jou weet. Jy is die hele tyd in my kop, maar ek kan jou nie meer onthou nie. Ek kan jou nie meer onthou nie. Ek kan jou nie meer onthou nie. Ek wil jou nie meer.
I really liked it. I enjoyed it. I was listening to it and my wife came in and she goes, "What is that? It sounds beautiful." And I said, "I have no idea what they're saying, but I love the way it sounds. It just sounds so melodic and pleasing. That's why I had to know what it was about."
Well, thank you very much for saying that. Sometimes you don't know what you're doing at the time. You just do it, and a song would come in. And I wanted to do something musical, and I want to get back to it. Certainly I do. I think of it in those terms. I just need to have something to say. Sometimes I look at, young sportsmen and whatnot, they publish biographies when they are 27 years old. I just need to have some sort of a value or a lived-in gravitas when I present something. It needs to come from someplace. So eventually, I'd love to, this is a dream of mine, is to be more involved on a musical level.
Well, again, you're really good at it, so I really hope that you do pursue that when you have the time. I know you're super busy with all of your acting, and that's great, but I do think that the world would be a better place if you made some more music.
Thank you, my friend. I'm going to leave you with that, right?
Yep, you sure are. Real quick, will you tell everybody where they can find you on social media?
at Real Sandilands. I'm not huge on social media. I'm trying to get better at it.
Gotcha. I will put all of your social media tags that I can find. They'll be in the show notes, so everybody just scroll down and you'll see how to reach out to Mr. Sandilands. Is there anything that you have coming up that we need to know about?
At the moment, I'm just taking a break. I think you need to do that as well. I think that it's a very, people sometimes call it vacation. But for me, it's just hang on, just take a breather for a second. Well, it's a good thing to take a breather.
Well, you have been very busy, so take all the time you need, but make sure you come back to us because you're doing great work. And lastly, is there anything that I didn't ask you or bring up that you wanted to talk about?
Maybe a portrait of a ham sandwich.
And we'll leave you with that.
Enjoyed that.
Thank you so much, Neil. I really appreciate you taking the time, and you have a great rest of your day, okay?
Thank you for your time, and thank you for the interest. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Neil.
You have a good one, too.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
You've heard of CBD oil, right? Everybody has. CBD oil helps with relaxation as well as joint and muscle pain. But do you know what hemp-derived CBD oil is? Let's talk about HempWorks. HempWorks products are made from industrial hemp plants grown on Kentucky farms. And the CBD constituent that naturally occurs in industrial hemp is just one of over 85 cannabinoids that is identified in the cannabis plant. HempWorks CBD oil is CO2 extracted, resulting in a solvent-free, pure extraction. HempWorks offers 500 milligram and 750 milligram full-spectrum hemp oils. They also offer them in 2 flavors, peppermint and natural. They do not use any artificial sweeteners or flavorings. And also offer THC-free versions of these oils if you are subject to regular drug screening. HempWorks CBD oil is non-GMO and organic, produced on Kentucky farms, and is free of GMOs, synthetics, fillers, and other harmful ingredients. HempWorks is so confident in their oils and products that they give you a 30-day empty bottle refund policy. If you change your mind within 30 days of ordering, send it back and they will refund your entire purchase price. HempWorks offers several products, including an anti-aging cream, a Revive cream infused with collagen retinol, which has incredible benefits for the skin, a Relief cream, which helps soothe and relax muscles. Also, HempWorks has products for pets. There's dog treats and CBD oil. And the dog treats are soy-free, corn-free, and grain-free. I believe that HempWorks ships to all 50 states and some countries. So if you're interested in learning more or purchasing any of these HempWorks products, go to www.hempworks.com/BREXHEMP84. That's www.hempworks.com/BREXHEMP84. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Most workplace drug screens and tests target delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, and do not detect the presence of cannabidiol, CBD. Cannabidiol, CBD, is a naturally occurring constituent of the industrial hemp plant. HempWorks does not sell or distribute any products that are in violation of the United States Controlled Substance Act. The company does sell and distribute hemp-based products.
Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2014 album Intransigence, used with permission from Douglas Miles Clark. Closing music is Apollo from the 2001 album Into the Known by the band Sapphire. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to know a little bit about our guest. We'll see you next time on Fascination Street.